So I'm on the way back from Jimmy John's with lunch. Just got off the phone with a good friend of mine from college that is buying a condo. Sold his house, putting a good down payment down, and purchasing a condo. And before we could get out looking at houses together, he found a condo that he liked that happened to be a for sale by owner. It happens. And did a little research. Looked like he was getting a pretty good price on it. And he ended up getting accepted offer. So what happens with the for sale by owner is you have sellers trying to do all their own negotiations, or they think they're outsmarting the process by hiring an attorney because that's better than a real estate agent somehow. So they hire the attorney does the paperwork, and the attorneys do what attorneys do, and they basically write the contracts in favor of their client, and they ship it out and insist on the terms and conditions the way that they put them together. And so I had a chance to review what they sent him, and the contingencies for a home inspection, a contingency for a low appraisal, and the contingency for failed financing had basically been removed from the language. And when you use a real estate agent who's using standard National Association of Realtor documentation, they typically have the language in there to protect you in your given market based on these different things that can come up. So you're a buyer. If your house doesn't appraise, if you don't get your financing, or if you have a home inspection and there's more trouble with the house than you saw fit, you're not at risk of losing your deposit that you put down for the purchase. So we went back, gave the advice that language gets reinstated, and my advice was to not to give them a deposit until that language was reinstated. And here's the way it works. So if in a typical transaction, if you're buying a place for $200,000 and you're getting a mortgage to make that purchase, your mortgage is based on the purchase price or the appraised value, whichever is less. So if you're buying it for $200,000 and you're planning on putting 20% down, you're going to bring a $40,000 down payment to the table in addition to whatever closing costs you may have. Well, now the appraisal came in, let's say $10,000 less. Now it came in at $190,000. So now your down payment is based on $190,000. It's not based on $200,000. So while you have a slightly smaller down payment, instead of $40,000, what is that, $38,000, now you still have to pay the $38,000 on the $190,000, but you're still purchasing the property for $200,000. You have to bring that additional $10,000 to the table. So now you're bringing $48,000 to the table instead of your original $40,000, in addition to your closing costs. So now it just costs you $8,000 more out of pocket to close on that transaction. So understandably so, when an appraisal comes in low, buyers tend not to want to pay those prices, because if they can't get the price renegotiated at that point with the seller, it's going to cost them a lot more money out of pocket. Maybe they don't have the full 20% down at that point, and maybe they have to change their loan program, or maybe they simply don't qualify for the loan anymore because they don't have the required down payment. So a lot can happen. Having that verbiage in the paperwork is extremely important. So what do you stand to lose if you gave a deposit on the property, which ends up being typically 1% of the purchase price? On a $200,000 purchase, you gave a $2,000 deposit, appraisal comes in low, you don't have that language in your contract, you're trying to back out, you stand the risk of losing that $2,000 deposit, basically. You could have the seller sue you for specific performance. They most likely would not get a judgment on something like that, but you would probably lose your deposit. So having the language in there is important. having the language in there to allow you, 5, 7, or 10 days due diligence to do home inspections and have the property looked at carefully to make sure there's not more wrong with it than you anticipated is important. And then also, if something goes wrong with your financing, you want to be able to get out of the transaction without losing your deposit there. So just a couple of things to ponder when you are going out there trying to negotiate your own contract. If you do not have a real estate agent helping you with the transaction, if you do not have a title agent helping you with the transaction, if you are dealing with the attorney that works for the seller's best interest, having some of this knowledge might help you avoid some pitfalls. So any questions? This is definitely something I do all the time. Contact me, 586-615-2868. And the buying season is upon us. So if you're out there shopping, enjoy yourself and good luck, and let me know if I can help.